Hello, and welcome to a quick tour of the Treatment Atlas survey. If you are a substance use disorder treatment site in the states where Treatment Atlas is operating, you should receive a link to your personalized survey via email. This link will be specific to your treatment site. When you open the link, you will see the welcome page. The welcome page is intended to give you brief instructions on who should be involved in completing the survey. It also outlines how to identify required and optional questions throughout the survey. At the bottom here, we have our email address. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us, as we will be more than happy to help. The next button also appears here at the bottom of the page. When you hover over it and click on the button, it will take you to the next page. The second page has additional instructions and information about how to use and navigate the table of contents. The table of contents appears here at the bottom of the page, and you can use it to jump to any section within the survey. We recommend that you start by completing the site details section, as this impacts questions throughout the survey. The table of contents is nice to use once you start completing the survey, as you can jump between sections. Also, if you have multiple staff who are supporting you on completing the survey, they can access the survey and jump to the section they will be assisting you with. Once you get through the instructions section, you will start to see questions in the survey. At the bottom of the page, the progress bar will start to track your progress. As you move through the survey, you will see an update, and you'll be able to see how much of the survey has been completed and how much is left to complete. The table of contents will also appear here to the left of your screen. On desktop, the table of contents will appear as noted to the left, and if it does not appear, you can click on these three lines here and it will open up. The table of contents will also show you the progress you have made during each section of completion within the survey. So here you can see the 90%, and that will show you the progress that you've made so far for this section. As mentioned earlier, we suggest that you start by completing the site details section of the survey first. Answers to questions within this section impact the questions you will see in other sections of the survey. Also at the top of the page, I'd like to point out the useful links feature. This appears in each section of the survey, and it is here to give you some information that may be useful to you whilst you're completing the survey. We have a reference copy linked here. If you would like to see what questions are in the survey, you can click on this link, and this will pull up the reference copy, and you'll be able to scroll through and take a look at all of the questions that appear in the survey. We also have an FAQ page. When you click on this link, it will open up to a web page, and here you will see frequently asked questions that other providers have had. We have gathered them together and created this FAQ page for you to look through and review. So if you have similar questions, this will hopefully help you in answering some of those that you may have. The first page of the survey asks you to submit information for the person who's completing the survey. We don't share this information with anyone, and we use this for our own purposes if follow-up is required. For example, if we need some additional information on the survey submitted, or if we have some clarifications on the responses, this is the person who will be reaching out to. So I'm going to fill in some information here. At the bottom, you'll also see the back and the Save the Next buttons appear. These are the buttons that you'll see as you move through the survey. The back button, if clicked on, will take you back to the previous page. And the Save and Next button will take you to the next page. As you can see, this did save our progress, even though we clicked back. So as you move through the survey, you will, if you complete sections, it will save your progress. You will now start to see which questions are required and which are optional as you go through the survey. These will be indicated with required and optional before the question itself, as noted here. When you see this, you will know which questions require a response. If you do not provide a response, you will get an error message with some instructions on what to do next. You will need to answer the questions so you can proceed. Here you can also see the site information. You'll be asked to validate that you are completing the survey for the correct substance use disorder treatment location. As you can see on this page, it will ask you to confirm that this information is correct and it is for the site that you are completing. We get a list of licensed substance use disorder treatment sites from the state, so we will have this information already populated in the survey. If this specific location has changed address, for example, you have the opportunity to make that adjustment here so that it reflects your current location. If you change the state, you will receive a pop-up asking you to confirm that the state you have changed and updated it to is accurate. If you click on OK, it will confirm the changes and it will update, for example, from here from New Jersey to New York. And if you click on cancel, it will revert the changes and keep it as entered. I wanted to note that the address should not be for your administrative location. This address is for the actual site where people receive substance use disorder treatment. So this is not where you want to add in administrative locations. We would want all of the physical locations for all of the substance use disorder treatment sites, and you should have individual survey links for each of those physical locations where treatment is administered. You also have the opportunity to adjust your facility name if needed. All of this information will be submitted to us and we will update it accordingly. Here we also collect contact information for the treatment site, so feel free to select as many options that applies to your site. The contact information selected and entered in the survey will be listed on the facility profile and treatment atlas for your site. As you can see now here in the table of contents, the progress has updated. And if we scroll down, you will also be able to see at the progress bar that this is also changed to. Here you can also see which ones are optional as well. Just so you can see if a required question is not answered, if I click next here, you can see that we have received this error message which says, please answer this question. So this is an indicator for you that this question needs to be answered before you can move on. As you move through the survey, your responses will automatically save. If you have to stop and leave the survey for any reason and you close the browser, make sure that you fill out the page and you hit the next button at the bottom of the page, as this will make sure we save your progress. As previously seen, when I clicked on the back button, it did save our progress, but we always suggest that you click Save and Next so it does store all of the selections that you have selected before leaving or exiting the survey. When you are navigating a section, as mentioned, you can use the back and the Save and Next buttons. You can also jump through sections using the table of contents. And when you return back to the section, you'll be able to see which questions you have previously completed. If you have completed a survey previously, your survey will be pre-populated as we have saved your responses from your previous survey so that the questions in this survey will have the answers stored from the last time you completed it. If your survey is pre-populated, we recommend that you complete a review and make adjustments to questions as needed and submit the survey to us. This should be a much more straightforward process. For first-time submitters, the survey will be blank and therefore you will be advised to go through, review each question and answer according to your treatment site. As you start to answer the questions, certain questions will appear based on your selections. So for example, here where we have level of care, if we select residential and outpatient, when I click on the next page, you'll be able to see that the age and for client populations, it only appears residential and outpatient. If I click back and I select hospital inpatient and click next, you will now see that inpatient has pre-populated here. As you can see that my choices on the previous question impacted what I was seeing here, and this is called survey logic. Survey logic is embedded in the survey, and this is to make sure that you are not answering questions that do not apply to your site. And it also allows for quick and efficient survey submission. You can also see here now how far we have completed throughout the survey. The progress bar has updated. I also wanted to note, as you progress through the survey, you will see that we have several types of questions. In the previous question, you were able to see that I was able to select multiple options. So in the level of care, and here I was able to select multiple options. We also have single select options. And you will notice that these, if I go to the next page, this is a single select question right here. So you notice that single select questions will appear with a circular selector, whereas multi-select questions appear with a square selector. And with multi-select, it will also indicate, please check all that apply. So for those questions, you can select all of the options that apply to your services. Here, as I selected other, I did have a follow-up question where it's just asking you to explain what the other option is. So you are here, you are given the opportunity to submit a reason as to why you selected other for this particular question. As we have moved through to the next section of the survey, you will start to see that the table of contents has started to update progress for the second section, but has also saved the progress of the first section. Once a section is complete, you'll be able to see that it appears with a check mark. If a section is incomplete, it will remain with a percentage. This is a great indicator for you to know that that section is incomplete and you are required to answer all of the questions before you can submit the survey. All required questions are to be answered before the survey can be submitted. Also, when you are going through sections and jumping to sections, if you land on a page where there are required questions, you have to answer that question and click Save and Next, or the back button before you can actually skip to another section or go back to the previous page. So for example, here I jumped to the personalized evaluation and treatment plan. I tried to go to another section, but it wouldn't let me, as it says I need to answer this question first. But as soon as I give an answer, so I select yes, I then have the ability to be able to jump to another section. Here we have required questions again, so we have to make some selections here before we can click on the back button and go back to the previous question. As mentioned, as you go through the survey, we're tracking the progress, answering questions about different aspects of care. All of the different sections are delineated here. For example, as we jumped to this MAT section, so medications for addiction treatment, you'll be asked about medications, and so each section gives you a good sense for what types of questions you may be asked about in that section. Again, you can also look at the reference copy if you'd like to. That will also give you a great indicator about what questions appear in each of the sections. Gonna answer this question and move on. Here, as mentioned earlier, we have different types of questions appear throughout the survey. This question here is on matrix table. Here you are able to select, again, this is a multi-select. As you can see, it indicates, please check all that apply. So you can go through and you can select all of the selections which apply. At the end here, it says neither provides on-site nor provides access off-site. If this is checked, it will remove the option that you previously selected. This just indicates that you are neither providing that service and therefore no other services can be selected. You can simply recheck it again and it will update as expected, and if you do not provide that service on site, you can leave it as that. Another thing to note is that for required questions, you want to make sure that you answer each row, especially when it comes to a matrix question. If you don't, so if I just unselect these and I try and click save and next, it will give you an error message. So it's really important that you do answer each of the rows that apply to your treatment service in your site. I'm going to jump to another section here. Oops, this is a required question, so let's answer this first before moving on. And this is required too. So I'm going to jump to this last section right here. This additional information about your facility. This section here has a list of questions which are optional. So information provided in this section is used to fully complete your facility profile page and treatment atlas, and it includes questions on accessibility, languages offered, special programs. You can also upload images as well. So even though this section is optional, we encourage you to complete these questions if you would like the information to be displayed on your profile on Treatment Atlas. One other thing that I wanted to show you is that, as mentioned earlier, if we do not complete all of the questions in the survey, when you get to the end of the survey, it will flag which of the questions still need to be answered. Again, as noted earlier, all of the required questions within the survey are to be completed before the survey can be submitted. So as you get to the end of the survey, as you can see here in the table of contents, I have sections which haven't been completed and sections which are still in progress. I would like to submit my survey, and as we get to the end, I land on the attestation page. Here we are asking that, you know, the person who is most familiar with the site, or senior leadership, chief executive officer, reviews all of your responses before submitting and attesting to the survey. But for the purposes of this video, I am going to fill in this page so I can show you exactly how it looks when sections have not been completed and you would like to submit your survey. So once the information has been entered and just click save and next, you will see this page where it says, are you ready to submit? As you can see at the top, it has flagged the sections which require responses before you can actually submit the survey. So it says you must finish the following before completing and submitting. At the bottom here, you will also see the table of contents again. Here you can see the sections highlighted in red, which still require questions to be answered before you can submit the survey. You can also see here that we do not have a save and next button. The save button will not appear until all of the required questions in these sections have been answered. So to go back to the section, you can use this table of contents to jump back to the section. And as you can see, it has jumped us back to the section. It has landed us on the last question that I answered within that section. You can also see here in the table of contents at the side that the sections which are incomplete and which require a response before submission are highlighted in red. These sections will need to be completed before submitting. Another thing to note is that when you do jump to a section, it may not always take you to the beginning of the section. As mentioned, it will drop you to the last question within that section. So to go back to the beginning, you will want to click on the back button to get you back to the beginning. Beginning of sections, obviously you'll be able to see like a heading, and you'll also see the useful links. That's a great indicator to know that you are back at the beginning of a section. Okay, so I'm gonna just go through and answer a few more questions. Here's another great example of how follow-up questions and survey logic works. Okay, and as you can see now, treatment access is complete. We've answered all of the required questions within that section, and it appears with a check mark. For the purposes of this video, I had another survey which was already completed. So now you can see that previously, as I mentioned, we had sections which were incomplete. All of these sections are now complete. And as you can tell here, the table of content shows each of the sections with a check mark on the side. You can also see at the bottom of the page, the progress bar is almost at 100%. As we previously completed the attestation page, I'd like to show you what it looks like now that we have all of the sections complete. So we no longer see an error message. As you scroll down, you'll be able to see all of the sections are complete. They all have a check mark next to it, which is a great indicator to know that all of the required questions in the survey have now been answered and completed. We also now have save and next page. Again, we recommend that, a senior leadership member, a chief executive officer reviews all of the responses before submitting. Once everything is confirmed, you hit the save and next button. You will get the thank you for completing this form. This page now indicates that your survey has been submitted to us. And we also have an email address linked right here. So if you have any questions about your survey submission, please feel free to email us and we'll be more than happy to respond to you. Now that your survey has been submitted, the survey will be sent through our data validation process. And if we have any questions about responses that you have submitted to us, we will ask for additional clarification through our data corrections process. You'll receive an email with a data corrections form, which will have specific questions for clarifications on your survey responses. If you do not receive an email, then the next email you will receive from us will be the Data Live email when your information goes live on Treatment Atlas. Again, if you have any questions at all about the survey process, please do not hesitate to email us, as we'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you. Thank you.